everything is in the right place, then the world will always move exactly how we expect it to, because it can't not do that. But what if you had the ability to reach into our universe and rearrange the various cogs and wheels of existence? Maybe even add new ones, stop certain gears, or start others early. What if you could control the very mainspring, escapement mechanism, and balance wheel of reality? Then you just might be one of the most powerful entities in all of creation. Hello, I'm Tyler, this is the Imaginary Axis, and one of the most popular pastimes on this channel involves exploring exactly how powerful certain comic book characters are, mathematically, scientifically. And I'm not gonna lie, it can get a little overwhelming. I often feel like there's a certain expectation to outdo myself, and each time I tackle a video like this, I purposefully try to find a character who makes the last character look unimpressive by comparison, which of course gets harder and harder. But recently, there's been a newcomer in the DC universe who keeps getting hyped up as one of the greatest threats in all of comic book history. And ever since the last big multiverse-shattering event, he's been sitting in the background, moving some of our favorite heroes and villains around like chess pieces. There's this mysterious air of dread around him and his unclear motivations as he's repeatedly painted as a force beyond the Justice League, beyond Darkseid, and even beyond this guy, who is actually pulling different versions of Superman from every reality in the multiverse just to drain their powers into himself out of the hopes he would eventually be able to face off against this unstoppable invader from outside of everything. The verdict? Well, Superman stopped him. But even if he had succeeded in draining every single one of them, he still wouldn't have stood a chance against this impending doom. Now, none of the characters really know who this guy is, and he's done his best to stay a looming, shadowy figure. But most of us who have been paying attention are pretty sure that the DC multiverse is encountering Dr. Manhattan. If you've never heard that name before, don't worry. I'd say you have to be a solid 3 layers deep in the comic book fandom to really understand him, despite his being a lead character in the best-selling graphic novel of all time. But the point is, there's been a lot of discussion lately, both in-universe and out, about exactly how powerful he really is. It's unclear. I think I might have come to something of a definite conclusion after really looking into him, but it's complicated, so I'm going to politely ask everyone to bear with me as I take some time to talk about what Dr. Manhattan is, where his powers come from, and what that says about his overall abilities. I think you'll be pleasantly satisfied with the answer. But first things first, you have to ask if you find yourself attractive. The answer is yes. As a matter of fact, you find everything attractive, because of gravity. Even if you're sitting on the exact opposite side of the Earth from me right now, provided you have average weight, I'm attracting you with roughly this much force. But close up, it's a lot stronger. And your molecules are all so attracted to each other that they're holding you together like some of the universe's best brand of duct tape. But gravity isn't the only thing doing the job. The electromagnetic force responsible for pulling positives and negatives together keeps your molecules bonded and stops electrons from flying off of your body. The strong nuclear force fights against electromagnetism's repulsive properties and keeps your nuclei together. And the weak nuclear force stabilizes your atoms through radioactive decay. Together, these 4 fundamental forces can explain every interaction in the universe, as far as we know. And they're what keeps you, you. Of course, depending on your exact shape and size, everyone's personal field of attraction energy is a little different, but Tyler, I can hear you typing. What does any of this have to do with Dr. Manhattan? Well, a lot, actually. You see, Dr. Manhattan wasn't always a glowing blue muscle man who likes to feel the breeze between his knees and you can't stop him. There was actually a time back in 1959 when the good doctor was just a regular doctor, named John Osterman, who was working on nuclear research with the United States government at the height of their Cold War with the Soviet Union. And as is typical when researching how to rip atoms apart and blow up your enemies, Dr. Osterman's lab had a particular interest in manipulating the 4 fundamental forces of nature. Specifically, they'd built something called an intrinsic field subtractor, which would sort of delete all the forces holding an object together so the scientists could take notes on the different effects this had. And Dr. Osterman was unlucky enough to accidentally get himself trapped in one of their testing chambers right before the next scheduled experiment. He was annihilated. It's actually important everybody understand exactly what's going on here. If you had the 4 fundamental forces ripped from your body, your intrinsic field just deleted, you wouldn't die. You wouldn't even be destroyed. Oh no, you would be literally unmade. The things that hold together your atoms would be gone. You are wiped from the face of the universe. There's nothing to bury. There isn't even a shadow or a smoldering pile of ash. You are nothing. Which is why the first thing Dr. Manhattan ever did would automatically set him up as the most powerful thing in the history of humanity. He came back. Oh sure, it took a few months. He had to find all the right pieces and slowly learn how to control them, but Dr. Osterman was a watchmaker before he was a physicist. He knew he could put himself back together. He just had to make sure all the right pieces were in the right places. This is the core of what Dr. Manhattan does. He's a matter manipulator, a reality bender. He takes the tiniest parts of the universe, the cogs and gears required to make things work, and he puts them where he wants them. Suddenly he can crush tanks, construct castles, and he only gets better at it over time. Need proof? Well, that same accident that ripped his atoms apart the first time was tried on him again a few years later, and the body that originally took him months to create was put back together in a matter of seconds. In the original Watchmen story, it was suggested that he couldn't fully stop a nuclear war between the United States and the Soviet Union. But lately, he's been seen manipulating infinite timelines, threatening all of existence, and even destroying this character, who we know is powerful enough to single-handedly defeat 7 monsters who could all easily destroy the multiverse. In one shot! See, this is part of what makes gauging Dr. Manhattan's power so hard. He's not like most muscly heroes who could theoretically only take so much force before they collapse. He controls the force. He can lift and punch and shoot and fly as hard and fast as he wants. So our real questions are, how much force can he control at once, how much authority does he have over it, and while we're at it, how do you recreate your body from nothing? Well, the path to answering all of these questions can actually be found in a book written by an old colleague of Dr. Osterman's, Professor Milton Glass, titled Dr. Manhattan, Superpowers and the Superpowers. In the introduction to his bestseller, Professor Glass recaps the events of Manhattan's creation. In an accident that was certainly unplanned and just as certainly unrepeatable, a young American man was completely disintegrated, at least in a physical sense. Despite the absence of a body, a form of electromagnetic pattern resembling consciousness survived, and was able to, in time, rebuild an approximation of the body it had lost. Now all of you psychologists, philosophers, and neuroscientists out there are probably